Hi everyone, I'm Don Cravins Jr., Executive Director of the Washington Bureau for the National Urban League. It's good to be back with you. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been all over the place here at the Washington Bureau. We were at the Republican National Convention, the Democratic National Convention, and just recently we were in beautiful Baltimore City for our annual conference. And so it's good to be back with you. Here are your top 5 things you need to know and news you can use. As many of you know, Congress is in recess during the month of August. That means for members of Congress, both the House and the Senate, they're in their home districts. We at the Washington Bureau urge our presidents, our CEOs, our guilders, our young professionals, we urge all of you to use this time to meet with your member of Congress and to discuss the issues that are a priority for you. Should you need any tips or you need any recommendations or suggestions on how to schedule your meetings or conduct your meetings, please feel free to contact us at the Washington Bureau. We'd love to help. Also this week, after a lengthy investigation into policing practices of the Baltimore Police Department, the United States Justice Department issued their official findings that Baltimore police officers have routinely violated civil rights of residents, made unconstitutional stops, made unwarranted searches and arrests, used excessive force, and routinely retaliated against residents of Baltimore. So I encourage you to read the Politico article and the Justice Department's report contained in the links below, and be sure to also familiarize yourself with the National Urban League's 10-point justice plan. We've talked about it before, as we continue to fight for criminal justice and police reform. Turning to economic news, the Institute for Policy Studies and the Corporation for Economic Development issued a new study recently on the racial wealth gap that still exists in our country. It found that if current economic conditions continue, the average black household will need 228 years to accumulate as much wealth as their white counterparts hold today. Listen to that. 228 years for African Americans to accumulate the same wealth that their white counterparts have today. For an average Latino family, it will take 84 years. So what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that if things continue as is, African American families and Latino families, they'll never close the wealth gap. Now, we know these facts here at the Urban League because we are the nation's only civil rights organization that is directly tied to economic empowerment. It's our main goal here at the Urban League. And so I would ask you to please read the study. There's some great information in it, so please take a look at that. We do have a cause for celebration, though. There's been a recent string of court victories where federal courts have beat back attempts by states which sought to suppress voting rights in the coming election. Now, you may remember that immediately after the United States Supreme Court gutted key provisions of the Voting Rights Act in 2013, several states passed voter suppression laws. Well, several federal courts have said enough is enough, and they've overturned those laws. But despite these recent victories in states like North Carolina and Texas, Wisconsin, Kansas, and Rhode Island, we at the Washington Bureau encourage you, we urge you to continue educating yourselves and continue calling upon your members of Congress to hold a hearing on the Voting Rights Advancement Act. This is a piece of legislation that's been languishing in Congress. This legislation would restore the protections of the Voting Rights Act and modernize the Voting Rights Act for today. And so we'd ask you to call upon your member of Congress. Remember, they're at home during August, and ask them to support the Voting Rights Advancement Act. Now, last but not least, I want to talk to you about a great program that we've learned about. Recently, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and Comcast announced a significant national effort to help close the digital divide for low-income Americans. Now, all public housing and HUD-assisted housing residents who live in Comcast service areas will be eligible for Internet Essentials, a low-cost, high-speed internet service program for low-income families. This expansion will not only facilitate home broadband access for African Americans and other underserved communities, but will also allow them to be competitive in securing financial and educational empowerment. We applaud this effort by HUD and our friends at Comcast, and we encourage them to continue working to close the digital divide that faces many of our low-income residents and communities. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for our top 5 things and news that you can use. Please take a look at our newsletter. I look forward to seeing you very soon. I'm Don Cravins Jr. Thanks for what you do in and for the movement.